I don't really give a shit that you're outside in a tornado. Do you live in the back rooms? What in the liminal ass space is this fucking neighborhood? This shit feels like a fever dream. You're telling me you wake up every morning and walk outside and see this? Holy fuck, I'd go insane in 2 days. I'd think my neighbors are lizard people and that they're gonna eat me in the middle of the night. And any weird sound I heard, I would probably start fucking panicking. Couldn't give a fuck about the tornado right now. That's like the least of my worries. Your neighbor might be, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg, which is more of a problem than you might think it is.
Probably. The idea behind the simulation theory is that none of this is real, and what we're actually experiencing is a kind of computer-generated simulation. And before you jump to the conclusion that there's no way you would fall for a simulation, your brain doesn't see, doesn't move, doesn't feel. You have body parts that collect that data sensory, which your brain then translates so that you can have an experience. Even though this technology is kind of crude, it doesn't take much to trick your senses into thinking that you're about to fall, for example. People like to put the odds at about 50-50, because we can't prove that it's true just as much as we can't prove that it's not. It could explain a couple of things, like the arbitrary speed limit of the universe, which is the speed of light, but also maybe the Mandela effect, which is a collective false memory, named after Nelson Mandela, who for some reason a lot of people thought was dead for decades. Some other examples are Looney Tunes, Pikachu, and I don't care what you say, I still call it Jiffy. Solipsism is the philosophical idea that you are the only one can be sure exists, because you can't remove your mind and put it into someone else, so how could you prove that everyone is as real as you? Most of my friends who work in IT, for the government, NASA, SpaceX, most of them believe we're in a simulation.
I recently had this video go viral, and the comments are so funny to me. The video starts out by me sharing public knowledge. Nobel Prize winners in 2022 for physics won that prize because they proved quantum entanglement. Entanglement proves that object permanence does not exist, aka reality has no fixed and predetermined state until you measure it. The whole video is about how objects are not locally real until you observe it. Reality does not exist until it is being observed. That is what they won the Nobel Prize for. It's a dramatic conclusion that most researchers accept but still fully struggle to grasp. And no one in my comments can grasp it. And I just have a message to you all. Don't shoot the messenger. Reality is not objectively real. Nobel Prize winners won the Nobel Prize due to this statement. It's not that I don't understand. It has nothing to do with me. Look, I get it. New realities are hard to grasp, especially when they challenge what we feel like is real in our everyday reality. But I will double down. People won the Nobel Prize. Not only did they prove quantum entanglement, but quantum entanglement has been like a known concept for like literally almost 100 years, and they finally closed all the loopholes with like 20 years of experiments to prove that it can't not be true. It's not like they won based off one experiment that in a few years we're going to be like, oh, that like wasn't the whole picture. So if you think objects do exist even when you aren't looking at them, that is literally wrong. That is just literally not true. And I can't help you. I get it's weird, but objects do not exist if you aren't looking at them. Reality does not exist if you aren't observing it.
The first time I thought it might be possible that we're not seeing the truth was in 1986. It was from some mathematics we were doing. And when that hit me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had to sit down. It was scary. It was really a shock to the system. And then to realize that everything that has been important to me, like what's worthwhile doing in life. And then when I start to look at it from this point of view that, well, this thing was an interface to begin with. So what I'm really going to be doing, just taking off a headset. So I've been playing in a virtual reality game all day, and I got lost in the game and I was fighting over a Porsche. And I shot some guys up and I punctured their tires, and I got the Porsche. Now I take the headset off, and what was that for? Nothing.
Well, I've been telling you this for how many years? Years.
10 at least.
It's an illusion.
How do you break the illusion? How do you get out? How does your soul move to the next level? Surely it's not, no disrespect to anybody, but surely it's not just going to church every Sunday.
No, I haven't been to church in a long time, and
me either.
It does. It's not that I don't like church. I do. I think it's a great place for people to gather and meet and learn. But there's still a hole there when you leave, and always a desire to know more, to learn more, and positive. Always think positive. Never let negative thoughts in your mind. The Greeks, Dr. Zervos taught me this, that the Greeks would never say, they're so into negative and positive language because speaking negative language, even speaking it to other people, can bring negativity onto yourself.
How'd you learn that?
I learned it from this experience.
From a download.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the ancient Egyptians taught. It's called Heka. It's word magic. I remember being a kid and I was mad at somebody, 17 years old, and you'd say stuff like, "Don't talk about them. That's a negative vibration." And I'm like, "What?" And now I get it. At 28 years old, it's
once the world awakens to getting that, awakens,
positive vibrations,
then the negative fear that surrounds this world will subside and peace will come.
Yes, I just made another video about this, but an NPC is born through an incubator or a Cabbage Patch Kid, right? Then they create more NPC children. There are also hybrids where NPCs mate with someone with a soul and they...
Who is the creator of the simulation?
Some people say it's aliens. There was a professor at Oxford who wrote a paper about this back in 2003 named Nick Bostrom, and he thinks it's future versions of ourselves. So he thinks we're in what we'd call an ancestor simulation. Like if we created a game of ancient Rome, they would be like our ancestors in a way. There are others who say it's God or pure consciousness outside of the matrix. So all the religions, not just any specific religion, but pretty much all of them have been telling us that the physical world is not the real world, that there's another world out there beyond this. And so that's yet another theory of what's outside.
Do you believe this is probable, possible?
I believe it's probable, like more than a 50% chance that we are inside some type of...
Those are pretty high odds.
Well, yeah, and as I studied the different religions, I realized that they were telling us the same thing that modern computer science and that modern physics is starting to tell us about the nature of reality.
What if somebody or something shut this game off instantly? What would happen to us?
Well, this depends a little bit on what I call the NPC version or the RPG version. So NPC means non-player character. And those are the characters inside the video games that are just AI. The bank teller or the bartender or the orcs that you're fighting. And then there's the RPG version or the role-playing game version. Those are the characters that we play. So if you and I were in a game, we would have avatars within the game. And so what happens when you shut down a game if you're playing like World of Warcraft or if you had a virtual reality headset on? You take off the headset and there's still you outside of the game. But the problem is in something like The Matrix, if you remember, Keanu Reeves and Morpheus and the others, they had those wires that connected into the back of their brain. So they forgot that they were inside a video game. They didn't realize it. Now, on the other hand, if we're just non-player characters, if we're just AI within the game, and you shut off the game, then those characters go to sleep until you can restart those again.
Interesting take. Now,
I apologize in advance. So I see a lot of people in the comments talking about this thing called Sonder, which loosely is the understanding or the realization that other people have lived full lives that you know nothing about. But there's a flip side to this. You see, there's this philosophical belief or school of thought called solipsism. And I'll begin my explanation of solipsism with a call to action. Go up to anybody in your friends, family, or even somebody off the street and ask them to prove to you that they are conscious in the same way that you are. You just can't do it. So solipsism is the incredibly lonely idea that because it cannot be proven to you that nobody else is conscious. But I'm going to take it one step further. See, something that's far more terrifying at least to me, is when we expand it a little bit. Let's not say I am the only consciousness in the universe. Let's say there are only a handful of people who are conscious in the world. Have you ever met one of these people? Who knows? But with the understanding of how large the universe is, and this is where it gets scary for me, that we're pretty sure there's life elsewhere. What if you're the only one on Earth? See, to me, that feels far more lonely than just being by myself, because at least then I can say that all of the experiences around me are mine, you know. I have some form of control, but if there are others who can kind of see the same thing that I can, then it's not. Then it is truly fucking random. And if I'm on Earth by myself, I am now truly alone. And so I'll reel it back in a little bit with something that's a little nicer, but still kind of scary. It's this thing called the egg theory. It borrows a little bit from the Eastern idea of reincarnation, in which when you die, you come back, which is nice. But when does that end? When do you stop coming back? See, reincarnation, to my understanding, kind of follows this idea that it's all on a timeline. You reincarnate at a different time than you were alive the previous time. Now, we can talk about like the incongruity of time itself and whether or not you reincarnate in the past or whatever, but what happens if you reincarnate at the same time that the past life still exists? And if we're talking purely solipsistically, that would imply that every person you've ever interacted with is a different version of you. And the idea is that each time you reincarnate, the next version of yourself is more consciously aware than the last. Now, where does this finally culminate? Well, it finally ends when you become God itself. And this is why they call it the egg theory. What came first? God or you? Welcome to The Reason I Drink, everybody.
Okay, guys, so I'm really surprised so many people can relate to how I feel. The video I made asking you guys, did you feel like we were just existing, like nothing is the same anymore, we're just floating through life? It has almost 90,000 views, over 11,000 comments. And I'd say 95% of those comments is people saying that they 100% agree. And for the people saying it's depression, it's not depression. For people saying we're getting older, it's not that. You literally feel like you are just inside of your body, moving around, but you really don't know why. It really feels like a real simulation, like somebody is controlling your player. Someone made a comment, they said, I've been feeling like this since Kobe died, and I thought about it. That is the exact day that I started feeling this way. That was the exact day where I was like, this can't be real, this isn't life, this just does not seem right. And that morning, I got up and I did something I never do, which is walk to the mall. I don't do that. I normally drive and wherever I go. But on my way walking to the mall, I pulled out my phone and I started recording myself, and I said, I'm recording this because I have a funny feeling. And if anything happens to me, know that something was off today. I had a feeling about it. I could not shake what was going on. Anyway, when I walked back to my house, that's when I found out Kobe was dead. And I've been feeling like I'm in the twilight zone ever since. And I 100% agree. Food doesn't taste the same. Can't get any sleep at night. Nothing pleases you. Nothing that you watch fulfills you. Like nothing, no movie feels good. No TV show feels like something is just off. Like we know we are just placed here going through this. Only the chosen ones, the ones that are saying, oh, life is great, life is amazing. You're either an elite, which means you're at a very, very, very high level in life, or you're not a main character. You're just a bot. You're just a seat filler. But the main characters, you definitely understand something's changed.
A video of Michael Jackson performing a song that had never been released. The problem was Michael Jackson died in 2009. And the simulation that you're going to see is so real that people in the audience, some of them were actually offended. People in the audience could not tell that that was not the real Michael Jackson. He interacted with the other dancers, he interacted with the audience, and he looked very real. It's a beautiful example of how far this digital technology and the ability to create simulations have come. The forbidden question, is it possible that each moment of every day of our lives is actually happening inside of a simulated reality that looks and feels totally real.